8 months away from the election, and the big question is, could Biden beat Trump if he becomes the nominee? There are a lot of ways to evaluate the success of a president. But if you look at the numbers, Biden is quietly having a good presidency.
I tell you who did notice, the Cookie Monster.
We looked at 10 metrics of US success over the past 3 years, and each data point tells an important story. So first, jobs. We added 14.8 million jobs, and the unemployment rate remained below 4%. But there were rolling recessions in tech and finance. Wages were also stagnant for a long time before ticking up in 2023 and continuing to grow. And of course, people are still feeling the pressure cooker impact of inflation. But inflation has fallen too, from a high of 9.1% in 2022 to 3.1%, as the economy grew 3.25%. And it's expected to continue to fall to 2.1% by August. The cost of living is also continuing to fall. There's even more good news. Income inequality has continued to narrow, with most wage gains going toward lower income workers.
Because when the middle class does well, the poor have a ladder up, and the wealthy still do very well. We all do well.
And household wealth has grown tremendously while debt burdens are at record lows. The stock market is not the economy, but it's been raging the whole time. The stock market has returned 45%, double the returns of the rest of the world, but not quite as high as Trump or Obama for full-term performance. In terms of violence, homicide rates are falling, and millions of people signed up for healthcare, especially in Republican strongholds like West Virginia, Texas, Louisiana, and Florida, with only 10.4% of working-age Americans uninsured, a 10% drop from 2010. But of course, there's not so great news and even bad news. Bipartisan cooperation has led to the focus on the green energy transition, with most of the money flowing into red districts and states. But it's not enough. To get to net zero emissions by 2050, we need to spend more. While there have been over 500 executive actions on immigration, reform legislation was derailed by Republicans.
We can fight about fixing the border, or we can fix it.
The bond market has lost 11%, driving up interest rates. Those high borrowing costs have really hurt people trying to purchase a home. But rates are expected to chill out as the Fed potentially cuts. So are we missing anything? Yes, we are. Housing. That's something I track closely, and it's still very expensive. Housing drove 2/3 of the increase in CPI, the Consumer Price Index, a measure of inflation. And even for people who want to buy, there's not a ton of options on the market. In October 2023, Biden allocated $35 billion to convert commercial into residential. But that was the perfect example of the arduous nature of some government policies. Getting the money required meeting hard-to-meet conditions and extensive environmental review. So none of the $35 billion has been used yet. Housing shortages affect everything. The housing theory of everything applies. Fixing it just requires bipartisan work. But all the good data in the world doesn't seem to be helping Biden. His approval ratings are dismal, hovering around 38% for his whole presidency. People are worried about his age, and they're just worried in general.
I know it may not look like it, but I've been around a while.
But if he's facing off against another deeply unpopular candidate like Trump, that might not matter that much to voters.